This mom is crying hysterically because she just lost custody of her kids to who? The father of the children. Why? Because she couldn't afford a lawyer and he could. Let's check it out.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
So today I had court for my child's custody, and I lost it because I didn't have money for it. The judge did not want to hear me for sure because no money on it. He had a lawyer and I didn't. It's so messed up because I've done so much for my child.
You know, long gone are the days where men have zero to no chance at winning when it comes to custody battles. Now, we understand that the court system and, family court is still biased against men. But when you have states like Kentucky who are accepting automatic 50-50 custody laws following a divorce, if there's no family violence, so on and so forth, then we know that there's progress being made. He has been deemed by the court to be the better parent to have primary custody. And a lot of chicks need to prepare for this because men are now fighting more. States are now treating fathers like fathers, right? Like they can also have primary custody of children. Not to mention, did you know that statistically speaking, a single father will produce better children than a single mom? Anyways, let's keep watching.
All I do is take care of him, protect him, and love him. And this is what I get. The law is so unfair. You have no money. So today,
of course, guys, I'm curious to know, what do you guys think? Let's check out a few of these comments, see what the people had to say. Top comment here says, no, girl. They don't take custody just because he had a lawyer. Sorry, but there is more to the story. That's a good point. Anyone who's ever gone through the experience, or if you watched a lot of hearings and you've seen the bold-faced bias against men, you know that there had to be a reason the father got custody. There had to be a reason. Let's check out a few of these comments here. By the way, this is Britt who left this comment. This is a chick, right? She realizes. A woman here says, yes, they do. I haven't have money for a lawyer. His dad had money for a lawyer. Didn't even want our son. His mom raised him. They wanted him so they could get child support and for him not to pay support. Hey, so this is somebody else commenting and saying, hey, I was in this situation where I could not afford a lawyer. I could not afford to pay to fight for my children, which also introduces that very particular point. What am I talking about? Well, shouldn't the person who's more financially stable, along with doesn't have a record of violence and abuse, because they look into this stuff, right? And they're deemed as a healthy parent, aren't they the better parent to have primary custody? I would think so. A quick moment for the sponsor of this channel, fathershaverights.com. Let's talk about something that almost never happens, but some men still experience: a mom paying child support. Yeah, it happens. And when it does, you better believe the courts still expect mom to pay. This mother owed back support less than $3,000, but instead of paying, she told the judge he ain't getting a dime. And when the judge heard this, he leaned in and said, do you want me to hold you in contempt and send you to jail? You see, family court doesn't always treat fathers fairly. I know people don't like hearing it, but that's just the plain truth. That's why fathershaverights.com is creating the custody prep guide for men, presented to you by expert attorneys to help fathers know what to do, what not to do, and how to protect themselves at every step of the custody process. Click the link pinned to the top of the comments. Join the waiting list for the custody prep guide for men. Somebody else here added, you don't know how the system works. It's all about money. I agree, it's all about money, but typically what I have seen, when a woman loses custody over children, she's pretty much like strung out on drugs. I'm not saying this chick is, but there's definitely something wrong. This next comment here says, now you know how we feel, huh? So this is a father who's gone through it. This next comment here says, hire an attorney, pawn your ring, don't give up. And this person here says it's too late. Well, I don't think it's too late. I mean, she can keep on fighting it's just going to cost. And again, we know that some laws do need to be changed when it comes to the family court. I believe they really won't be changed until women feel a lot of the same type of pain points that men experience during the custody process. Somebody else here says, I'm in Fort Worth. I had the same situation. I was crying like this once. DM me. Here's somebody else who says, Dad's one up. Another person here added, there is more to this story. Here's somebody else who added, so sorry, mama. Please stay strong for your baby. I know it may feel like life is so unfair right now. Don't give up fighting. I'm sorry, don't give up. Keep fighting. You'll find a way to take him back to court. And our final comment before we move on here says, welcome to the man world. Men go through this daily. Buckle up. Okay, so this is a woman who's also sharing about how her mother lost custody of her kids in 2012, and she was one of those kids. And she goes on to say, and if you think I'm disrespectful, I find it disrespectful to have 3 kids at 19. Let's check it out. So she experienced being a child of a mom who lost custody, who should not have been having 3 kids at 19. And I guess the internet was kind of coming at her. I haven't seen the original video, but I thought this video was interesting. Let's check it out.
My mother lost custody of her kids in 2012, okay? What I find disrespectful, since everyone wants to call me disrespectful for telling the truth about my life, my upbringing on the internet, I find a 19-year-old having 3 kids disrespectful. I think that's highly disrespectful. And if you seriously think I owe a 19-year-old, well, she now like 43, right, a 43-year-old who had me at 19 respect, you're insane. Like, I don't understand. And the amount of parents that are in my comments or DMs feeling like I'm talking about them when I don't even know y'all is crazy. That's a shame. Like I said, teenagers do not need kids.
This is a very interesting topic. Shout out to this chick. I mean, I don't know her other content, but I appreciate this point. Very rarely do you get to see these type of videos of a child who was the victim of teen pregnancy. You don't see these a lot where somebody's talking about, hey, I shouldn't have been in that situation. That was very irresponsible of my mom to have 3 kids at 19, so on and so forth. You don't hear that a lot. And I think this is important to hear this angle as well. Maybe you've been through this. What do you think?
You're hurt and you're mad because you think I'm talking about you when I don't know you, because you made very poor decisions. Someone said that parents are supposed to provide house and food. And even if it's Section 8 and food stamps, that's what they're providing. You're still getting it. If you need Section 8 and food stamps to feed and house your kids, you probably should have had the kids, period. Like, what if those programs were not there? Now what? Like, y'all need to stop. This is, mind you, this is coming in the same month when the government was trying not to provide food stamps for people. And you're saying at least you got food. Something is really wrong with y'all, and y'all do not want to take accountability for your own actions. And that don't got nothing to do with me. Like, right. I really wish I could cuss everybody out in the comments that be saying stupid shit, but I can't. But y'all are insane. And then all the pages reposting my video, and then you don't tag me. Then you reposting it, and then you putting your own caption and getting paid for it. That's weird as and I'm reporting you.
I'm curious to know what her original video was. So she's like, hey, a lot of you moms who decided to have teen pregnancies, who decided to have kids early, I'm holding you guys accountable. And because I'm talking about my mother holding her accountable, you guys feel attacked. She does not care. She got a few of these comments, see what the people have to say. Maybe there'll be other children who also feel the same type of way. Top comment here says, I hate how people act like having kids is unpreventable. There are definitely people who are like, there's nothing I could have done. I just had to get the cheeks clapped fast, not slow.
You could lose legal custody if you can't co-parent. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. It doesn't matter if you think your behavior is justified. We're talking about ignoring the court orders, making custody exchanges difficult, excluding the other parent in joint decisions, refusing visitation, talking bad about the other parent to the kids, or anything that has a negative impact on the child's well-being. The court wants to see that you can work together with the other parent, even if your ex is a high conflict parent.
On December 10th, I lost the majority of my custody of Luca. As many of you know, his father has been weaponizing the legal system for many years now, relentlessly attacking me over and over and over. And the over $70,000 he spent this fall finally did it. He finally stripped me of most of my rights as a parent and took away most of my time with Luca. I get Luca, he sleeps at home now every third, fifth, and first weekend of the month, unless of course, like in January, he's gonna be with his father, because I also lost my Christmas vacation, which will be a separate video. And then I have him for a few hours on Thursday after school, and every other Tuesday I have him for a few hours. So a kid that still gets cuddled to sleep every single night in my bed will now, I gave him back yesterday, and I will not have a sleepover with him for the next 20 days. I lost my right as a parent to have any input on medical decisions, dental decisions, psychiatric decisions, educational decisions. I can't even have his passport at home. Renew it, definitely not, but I can't even live in my drawer anymore. It has to stay with the father, who has used it 0 times since we moved to Texas almost 4 years ago. And I would say has actually in his whole life probably used it 2 or 3 times max. We talked about stability being important, and so the judge naturally decided that what would be best for Luca would be to take his mother away, his entire schedule with his mom, have him change school districts in 2 years, after he's been in this school for 6 years. And I had to cancel his gymnastics and swimming, because on Saturdays now, the only days that I have him day and night ever, 2 times a month generally, because there's very few months that have 5 weekends. I have to do the sport with Luca that not he decides, that his father decides. And even after I testified that I have physical reactions being around the man who has been tormenting me for the better part of a decade, I explained which parts of the brain are underactivated and which are overactivated with constant emotional trauma. I explained the dysregulation of cortisol that we have being in a situation like this. And still, she thought that the best thing would be to have me cancel my sports with him and instead spend my weekends being around his father, who of course coaches baseball, not because of his love for baseball, not because of his love for Luca, because then he can talk about it in court and to everyone and post photos, and everyone's like, wow, you're such a good dad. Also, more on the stability, when the judge asked baby daddy what he would do because he has Luca almost all the time now, almost every single night, what he would do when he can't take care of him or if he's not here, he replied that he would gather his friends, fly his family in, or if neither of those were an option, he would outsource. And I testified how in the past, even when he's left to Europe for a month, he basically just cycled Luca between a bunch of different people, including his old lawyer, just tossing him around between all these different households so that I could not be with him, because he knew that would torment me. And the judge, the female judge, I might add, which makes it all the more disappointing, she still did not give us first right of refusal, meaning that if he cannot take care of him, I have first dibs. So now, if he goes to Europe for a month again, I'm still gonna have Luca for 4 nights a month. The main thing they had on me was Luca's not so ideal attendance last year, not this year, because that wouldn't fit their narrative. So last year, Luca and I had a buddy pass for him with Southwest, meaning I'd have to pay for his flights. So yes, whenever there was a long weekend, not always, but usually, we would elongate it. So his attendance wasn't great. Were his results great? Yes, they were. And that was clearly demonstrated in one of the 3 business records affidavits from the school that they filed with the court, one of them 531 pages long. In fact, it showed that his results out of his 4 years that he's been in school, that was by far his strongest academic year. And I'll explain about how, that's another video that I'll explain why I believe that happened. So they just vilified my travels in every way that they could. They complained that I had tardies. I had 5 tardies last year, 0 this year. By the way, first semester was almost done. It is done now. but we didn't even mention this semester. We just focused on last year's semester. So I had my 530s, 2 more than he had, but that wasn't really discussed. A lot of things, a lot of crazy contradictions were not discussed. I'll make a separate video for that. They really emphasized how, because the school told me once that religious absences are excused, because we used to have, now it's 0, a limited number of unexcused absences each. And the school told me that if it's a religious holiday, it's excused. So I looked at the religious holidays, and when we were traveling, if it was the day of the Virgin Guadalupe or the feast of Saint Lucia, I would excuse it for those. They questioned me if we celebrate the day of Saint Lucia, the feast day of Saint Lucia, and I said no, but they didn't stipulate that. That's just that it's excused. So this is based on this is how the judge justified her entire ruling. She said, I don't celebrate these 5 religious holidays, and that's really not right. Even though we caught baby daddy lying and playing the system in much more sinister ways than I play the system, and which, by the way, I just do it with the school. I think the results speak for themselves, though, and I've even talked with the school about it. I'll make another video about this, but the superintendent's office was on board. And on top of his top-notch actual school results, we also showed videos of him reading and translating Czech, reading and translating Spanish, his wildlife photography, tracking animals by footprints, rug tufting, all this other stuff that I focus on with him that's also educational. Anyway, so that's how she justified taking my son away, because it's just not right to not celebrate the religious holidays. And okay, I understand not everyone has the same viewpoint on attendance. And okay, maybe the judge is a really big stickler for attendance. Fine, give him full educational rights, but giving him full dental when he refuses to brush his teeth, refuses to let me go to the dentist, takes away the electric toothbrush that I gave him so that he can brush his teeth more effectively. After we presented to the court these photos, the first one being after 5 days with him, the second one being after 5 days with me. Full medical, when we talked about how I'm the only one that takes care of medical, like his physical therapy, and not just am I the only one that takes care of it, he goes out of his way to actively sabotage what the doctors are saying that he's going to do what he thinks is best. And when I remind him that he doesn't get to have an opinion because he's an actor and he didn't go to medical school, just like I don't get to have an opinion because I also didn't go to medical school, that's why I do what the doctors say. He tells me to not force my parental styles on him. Crazy thing is, I wasn't even nervous for this hearing. And that's knowing that the family court system heavily favors abusive men over normal women. But I just thought, well, the evidence is just, it speaks for itself. There's no way. There's no way that this can happen. Also, technically, he wasn't even allowed to get primary custody because he filed within 1 if you file again for something like this, a new modification within a year of the last final order being signed, you are not technically allowed to become the primary unless you can show signs of physical abuse or something, which obviously he didn't. So he wasn't even allowed to get it because he did do that. So I wasn't nervous. And then when the judge basically gave him everything he wanted and then went out of her way to cancel my Bolivia, non-refundable Bolivia trip, which I'll make another video about, and taunt me with it, very unprofessional. It was literally the worst moment of my life.
Somebody else who says the cycle of bringing children into poverty has to end. I agree. Here's another person. You know what? Let's see what somebody said in response to this. I hate how people act like bringing kids into this world is unpreventable. This person says, girl, I knew a guy who was just having kids and mourning, I think that's supposed to say, each time that she's pregnant again. I explained I've been with my man 3 years and not a one single scare. And he just assumed my boyfriend was finishing inside just because I was cool. I was like, no, people who don't want kids don't have kids. Well, the ones that are serious. I do my part and he still does his part to make double extra sure. He was actually stunned that people live life with purpose and discipline. These people are dumb, I swear. I think that's also a big part of it, right? People are slow, man. I saw a recent video that I always try to make this point. A lot of people don't know that Plan B pills do not work if the woman who you're sleeping with is ovulating. A lot of people don't know that. And I share that every chance I get just because, people don't go look this stuff up. Somebody else who says the cycle of bringing children. Oh, we already read that. Here's another comment that says, never stop talking about this. Here's somebody else who says, everyone disagreeing. They're projecting. Another person who says, our community needs to hear this. The cycle got to stop. Here's somebody else who says, I'll never understand the addiction to the struggle.
If you think you're going to get full custody of your kids and your ex isn't in prison, think again. It is so uncommon these days for the court to eliminate one parent entirely from children's lives. You may get a bit more decision making or parenting time if you are the better parent and the other parent has substance abuse problems, travels a great deal, or is otherwise somehow abandoned the children. But in general, courts favor giving equal parenting time and equal decision making to fit parents. This is good news for those of you whose ex has got you in their crosshairs.
So Kentucky just shocked the nation with a 25% drop in divorces. But the question, of course, is how and what exactly changed within the past few years. Well, back in 2018, Kentucky became the first state to flip the script when it came to custody. You see, instead of automatically giving the mom primary custody and dad every other weekend Disney dad role, as many of you have seen over and over again, the law made 50-50 custody the default. Unless there's proof of real abuse or neglect, the court starts from equal parenting time. Here's why that's important. The more time dad spends with his kids, the less he will have to pay in child support. Before, divorces often meant that the mom walks away with the kid and a big child support check. After the law, that's not guaranteed anymore. Now critics, mostly women's groups, say this is unfair. They argue that some mothers feel trapped in bad marriages, even abusive ones, because they worry the dad will get half custody even if they divorce. And judges have been accused of ignoring abuse claims, all because the father didn't directly lay hands on the child. But here's the other side. Men see this as finally fair. Husbands say the system no longer rewards the wife for filing for a divorce just to get custody and child support. Instead, both parents have to share time, share responsibility, and share costs. So what Kentucky did was take out the financial incentive to blow up a marriage. And for a lot of men, that's exactly why they call this a win. But do the women's groups who do not like this new law have a point? I don't know. Let's talk about it. Let's see.
Divorce rates are dropping in Kentucky. I went there to figure out why. In 2018, Kentucky became the first state to make 50-50 shared custody the default. That means that children split their time equally between both parents,
right,
and fathers pay less in child support the more time that they spend with their children. Before that, judges decided custody based on what they called the best interest of the child. Fathers said that usually relegated them to an every other weekend arrangement, the so-called Disneyland dad effect, while mothers got to spend most of the time with their children. Since the law passed, divorce rates have dropped. Between 2016 and 2023, divorces in the state fell 25%, compared to 18%.
And for those of you who are like, she's pretty much telling us what you just told us. I know. The comments are really what we're going to pay a lot of attention to, and we're going to look a little bit more deeper into these ignored abuse claims that these women's groups are stating.
Nationwide. It's hailed as a victory for fathers' rights, but the story is more complicated. Some critics of the law say that people are staying in abusive marriages because they're afraid of leaving their children alone with a parent with a history of violence. One mom told me that her husband nearly killed her in 2023. She filed criminal charges and he was arrested.
But back to that first chick, yes, the one that was crying in the car. I looked at her page. I did find this video here that just tells me, I hate to say it, everything I need to know about her and what she values. The caption of this video with music, she kind of does like the whole music and just caption videos reads, "Please, Lord, make me reach my goal 100K followers by this year so I can tell my family I made it." See, if this is you and you're a mother and your goal is like praying to God that you reach 100K followers, hey, Go out there, create your content. I support anyone that does, but you're not going to get there by praying. Yes, prayer helps. Don't misunderstand me. But God won't do for you what he's given you the power to do for yourself already. A lot of people are lazy. You know, she's over here praying for 100K followers, not to mention like why so focused on 100K followers? Oh, here we go. So the chick who said that she could not afford a lawyer, I didn't even try to look for this. I just went on her page to check this out. I didn't even see this. Said she could not afford a lawyer, can afford this bag. And I know, what's this, Louis Vuitton? I don't know for sure. I think this is Louis Vuitton. Hold on, let me confirm with our AI assistant barista, Miss Coffee, and see if this is Louis Vuitton. Guys, I don't know much about brands. Miss Coffee, real quick, is this Louis Vuitton on the screen right here? Some type of brand? And how much, you know what? We're gonna ask how much this purse actually is. And how much is this purse? I just took a screenshot. Let's see what Miss Coffee says. We love Miss Coffee. And yes, I am pointing out the fact that here she is, says she can't afford a lawyer, but she has this expensive bag.
Yes, love. That is Louis Vuitton. That pattern is the LV monogram canvas, and what she's holding looks like a small LV pouch, wristlet, often sold as a toiletry pouch or mini pochette. Here's the straight breakdown. Retail, new, usually $600 to $900, depending on the exact model. Resale, anywhere from $350 to $700, depending on condition and demand. It's not a Birkin. It's not quiet luxury. It's entry-level LV, very recognizable, very status signaling, very common. This is the kind of bag people buy when they want the logo to speak louder than the item.
Yeah, Miss Coffee, what do you think of this lady losing custody of her kids and it being the result of her not being able to afford a lawyer, but she's buying these type of bags? Hey, I'm just the messenger here, guys.
Miss Coffee here, and I'm going to be very direct. If a woman loses custody of her kids because she couldn't afford a lawyer, the real issue usually isn't just money. Courts don't remove custody lightly, and they don't do it simply because someone showed up without private counsel. What actually happens in most of these cases is this. There were prior issues already on record. She didn't prepare, document, or comply early.
Right.
Deadlines were missed. Warnings were ignored. And by the time court hit, the situation was already tilted. Not having a lawyer doesn't help, at all. But not affording one is rarely the root cause. It's usually the final excuse people land on after a series of bad decisions. Here's the uncomfortable truth men already understand. Courts reward structure, preparation, and consistency, not explanations. Public defenders, legal aid, continuances, and court-appointed resources exist. They're not perfect, but they're there. When custody is lost, it's usually because the court decided the other environment looked more stable, not because one side had a nicer suit and a better attorney.
Well, that's Miss Coffee. Of course, I'm curious to know. What do you think? Hey guys, as always, I appreciate you for checking out yet another episode of the Coffee Pod. To my currently engaged or soon to be married men, if you need a prenup and would like a guide that shows you how to get a solid and legally binding prenuptial agreement, hit the link pinned to the top of the comment section and access your guide at fathershaverights.com today.